So funny enough, we were waiting to record this intro to this episode for some big news that happened. Asli, you were in New York City for the big World Cup bid for the 2031 Women's World Cup. What's the big news that came out?
The big news is that United States will be hosting the 2031 World Cup, Women's World Cup, together with Mexico and, drum roll, with Jamaica and Costa Rica.
Yeah,
It's a. I knew you were going to do something.
got my green on too. It's like I knew.
As if you knew. Well, it's huge. First of all, 48 countries will participate in 2031. This is the most leadway the host countries have because they have 5 years to prepare. Of course, there's so many questions around it, but the most important thing is they want to leave a big legacy behind with this World Cup. The last time US hosted a World Cup, if you remember, it was 1999. It was a big deal, the 1990s. US women's national team is the most successful women's national team in the world. Together with Mexico and Jamaica and Costa Rica, they are setting the scene for 2031 to be an incredible era for women's soccer.
This is absolutely massive. We have the Men's World Cup coming here, obviously this summer in 2026. You're seeing that it's a joint effort between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. The US and Mexico, if I'm not mistaken, were thinking about submitting for the 27 Women's World Cup, backed out of that. Do you think they pulled out because there were some other federations and organizations, namely Costa Rica and Jamaica, who were interested in hosting, or was it a time thing, or what was the sense that you got from being at the bid announcement?
I had the sense that they were waiting perhaps to be better prepared for it, because from listening to remarks yesterday from the US soccer president and also other people that I spoke on background, one of the reasons maybe that they wanted to wait a little longer is there were interest from CONCACAF nations to join this bid, and they wouldn't be ready for it. But also, I mean, when you think about it logically, would you want to come after the 2026 World Cup and have Women's World Cup right after that? I thought it was a smart decision to pull that bid, think about it more thoroughly, add new partners. And these new partners, when you think about it, both Costa Rica and Jamaica are very soccer strong countries. Jamaica's national team, even though in the last World Cup, in the Women's World Cup, I wrote about it, like how their federation wasn't really taking care of the women's team. They were not getting paid.
That's a lot of federations, unfortunately, right? We've seen in the women's game that there are a lot of federations that promote the men's side and the women don't get half of, unfortunately, what the men get. And we just spoke with Melissa Ortiz, the former Colombian
About that,
international, about those issues. Yeah.
And I mean, in Jamaica's case, they were basically so under financed that Bob Marley's daughter came out and actually paid for their travel and trips in the last few qualifiers, and also leading up to friendly games. And she really helped the team go forward.
Wow.
In terms of Costa Rica, they have a great, squad on the pitch. It's a great country. My question generally around hosting a World Cup in the summer in the Caribbean is maybe not the best idea because of the hurricanes.
Is there any potential of maybe moving it? Because we had the Men's World Cup and Qatar was played in the winter. The 2034 World Cup is going to be played in the winter because it's in Saudi Arabia, obviously very hot. Is there any chance that we have, the 2031 Women's World Cup at a different time of year?
I wouldn't say there's a strict no answer to that question. They have 5 years to figure it out. And I feel like 2026 World Cup is going to really show us how weather conditions will impact these games over the summer in the United States. We're talking about Caribbean, but when you think about Texas, Florida, these places also fall into the same category of excessive rain, heat. We've seen it over the summer. This isn't only a Caribbean problem. This is, generally speaking, a global warming problem that is impacting our part of the world. But yeah, I feel like 48 countries and growing women's soccer around the globe is what they have in mind. And they have enough time to plan it ahead and host an incredible World Cup here in the US. And I feel like the time is going to also help bring the eyeballs. It's going to be broadcasted Netflix in 2027. And I feel like that would be a great testing ground. and they will have a lot of opportunities to make it even bigger in 2031.
I'm excited. Obviously, this is your area of focus, and I'm sure you're over the moon, with the news and it coming here. I'm just excited because this the United States is going to be the epicenter of soccer, international soccer. We had Copa America, Club World Cup. We have the Men's World Cup. Obviously, the 2027 Women's World Cup is in Brazil. We have the Olympics coming in 2028 in Los Angeles. And now we have something else to look forward to in 2031 in the expanded Women's World Cup, right? And this isn't hey, the men are doing one thing and the women are doing something else. The men's field is expanding, and then the women's field is expanding as well, too. But what I want to see as well, too, is that equal investment from FIFA, from brand partners, from broadcasters, from everybody saying, here's what we're doing for the men's side. We're going to do the same thing for the women's side. And it isn't this afterthought, right? And I think I was reading some quotes, yesterday from folks at the U.S. Soccer Federation, and they said it's supposed to be on par.
The other, I think, important detail is when we look at NWSL today, next season we'll have 16 teams joining, 16 teams competing in the league. Think about 2031. How many more teams could be part of that league? How many more stadiums will be built by then for women's, specific soccer stadiums? I'm sure. Well, we know that both Boston and Denver are coming into the league, and they are building soccer specific stadiums. And when I was talking to some of the U.S. soccer folks, they are thinking about, because it's 48 teams, they're going to have group stage matches, perhaps with some countries that they may not be able to fill an NFL stadium, but they can fall back into an NWSL stadium with 15 to 20,000, capacity, or an MLS stadium from 30 to 40,000 seat capacity. So they have options where we won't see empty seats when we look around in the broadcast, because they can really plan it ahead for these situations. And they probably will select cities where they have both an NFL stadium and an MLS or NWSL stadium.
Mm-hmm. There's just so much growth and excitement around soccer these days that we need to talk to someone who's at the center of all of it. Mm-hmm. We have Andrés Cantor, the iconic, I could sit here and hold it out as long as I can. He is here. He's joining us. We're so excited to talk to him just about his career, how he's gotten to where he has, working with his son, Nico, who I know and folks know on CBS and on Golazo. And Andres is just so excited for everything happening here in the country and with soccer in general. So without further ado, welcome to this week's episode of Finance of Football. I'm veteran sports journalist Michael Array.
And I'm Asli Pellet, women's sports reporter at The Athletic. Andres, I guess my first question is, being from Argentina, obviously soccer, football is in your blood. But how did you find the love you have for, broadcast journalism? What drew you into this business?
Asli, it's so good to be with you and Michael. Basically, everyone that is from Argentina has soccer, football in its blood. And I always say that the next best thing to playing the game is being involved the way I am. So it's kind of a natural thing that happened in my life, in my dreams of playing professional football. I came to realize I wasn't good enough, and I had to settle with the second best thing there is, which is being involved in the game the way I am, being so close to the players, to the coaches, to the fans, and just having the best seat in the house.
Andres, who were some of the voices and, either domestically or abroad that you looked up to as you were getting into the broadcast, aspect of football here?
Well, I grew up in Argentina listening to the games on the radio, which was the most popular medium. Television wasn't as big, and they weren't showing that many games. So I was brought up with a transistor radio in my ear, listening to Jose Maria Munoz, which was the number one play-by-play announcer of the time of the decade that I grew in, that when I was a teenager in Argentina. Then when I moved to LA, for some reason, I took to the liking of many announcers, even though baseball is not my thing. Listening to Vince Scully, growing up in Los Angeles, calling the Dodger games, it was just poetry in motion. And the one that I liked the most actually was Chick Hearn, who did simulcast for the LA Lakers. And I liked the rhythm because it was very similar to the way and the pace of Argentinian announcers that I grew up listening to back home.
Going back to your breaking into the North American soccer scene, which is ahead of the 1990 World Cup, how much have you seen soccer grow in the US since you arrived? It's been like 30 years. And what does it mean to have a World Cup again in this country? I'm sure it's a huge difference from 1994 to 2026. We came far away from that moment, but still, there's a lot to be done, maybe.
There is, but in a different way. In 1994, we all knew that we needed the World Cup to be a success for soccer to have a chance in our country. We didn't have a professional league back then. 2 years after the 1994 World Cup, of course, MLS was formed, and now we have a very robust and sound league of 30 teams across the nation. So it was very, very important that the World Cup did well, and it also was important for the mainstream or the occasional fan to know what the game was about, because regular casual fans were not very knowledgeable of the sport, or I would even go as far as saying they weren't even knowledgeable of the sport's existence. So it was a huge success from the amount of attention the 1994 World Cup received in the country in general. And obviously, the MLS wouldn't have been born if the 1994 World Cup would have been a failure. And after 94, we had, the Women's World Cup, which is also a great success and a trampoline, if you will, to the women's game in our country. And I think Asli and Michael, come 2026, fast forward to next summer's World Cup, I think it's going to be important because I believe it's going to be the greatest sporting event to be held in this country, period, regardless of whatever sport you want to talk about. There's not a single soul in this country that will not know that the World Cup is being played in the US. Not necessarily will they watch the game, they will probably not know if Jordan beat Uzbekistan on a given day, but obviously through the amplification with social media, they will know that the World Cup is being held in the US with tremendous success. Up to this day, the 1994 World Cup is the World Cup that has sold the most tickets in the history of the FIFA World Cups, with 3.4 million tickets sold. This one, obviously, because it's the double, as I call it, the double XL World Cup with 104 matches, is going to surpass by far that number of tickets sold in the US. And it will be a party not only in the 16 host cities across the three nations, but it will be just a wild party all over the US. 94 put soccer in the map in the US. Now it will just expand that footprint to make sure that everyone knows about the beautiful game.
I have a follow up for you because you are not only a football soccer fan, you're a sports fan in general. You know so well this ecosystem. Here's my observation living here as a foreigner. Americans love winning. When they're winning, they get behind the flag and they get behind the team and they're all in supporting their team. And I guess that's why US women's national team's popularity is so much bigger than US men's national team's popularity. So I think in 2026, aside from having this marvelous event here, I think Americans also need to see a more successful national team.
Who doesn't love a winner? We all love winners. It's not a U.S. Fandom, type of thing. I think all sports fans love to see their team win. Obviously, I think what the U.S. national team, men's national team, needs to do in the World Cup is be competitive, and win as much as they can. Obviously, I think any soccer fan knows that dreaming of winning the men's World Cup at this stage might be just that, a fantasy or a dream. But fantasies become reality and dreams come true sometimes. I'm not saying that we will win the World Cup, but the aspiration has to be that. Pochettino, the coach, said that for him a good World Cup would be quarterfinals. Maybe it will, and I think the fans will rally behind this U.S. national team if they get out of the group with 3 wins, with a perfect record, or with 2 wins and a tie, whatever, or they just go through.
You mentioned something earlier about how back in the 90s, it was about educating the American audience about soccer. Now, as we have this World Cup coming back here 30 years later, how much has that knowledge grown and how has it affected the way that you broadcast matches? I'm sure the way you spoke about the game in 1994 is way different than you'll speak about it in 2025 and 2026. So I'd love to hear, how soccer's growth in the United States has affected you personally in terms of how you broadcast matches.
The fact that 94 was, educational to put soccer on the map, and now that it is on the map, and people are more savvy, does it change my style? No, it doesn't change my style, because I will do the same thing that I did in 94 come in 2026. Give an overall context of the match I'm about to call, have tidbits of personal human interest stories of the players if time allows, and obviously be as well prepared from a tactical standpoint, just to try to make sure no details escapes me. I hate when little nuisances that are irrelevant to anybody else but me escape me. Like, perfect example, I called New Zealand against Costa Rica playoff match to go to Qatar. I studied New Zealand. I watched their last 10 games. In all 10 games, the ball, every corner, the ball fell on number 5 head. Every single one. And obviously, when I see the first corner kick of the match for New Zealand against Costa Rica, my natural preparation, makes me say, watch, Costa Rica has to be careful of number 5. The ball is going to come to him. Of course, it came to number 6 and he scored. And I was like, God,
No.
well, but at least I wasn't just making it up. I was just going on the preparation that I had for that match. And at the end of the day, it's football. It's anybody can do something different on any given match.
That's true. You shed a light a little bit about how you prepare. In a regular day, this is how many hours of watching soccer happens in your life. And then how does that compare to like a World Cup prep, for example?
Come the World Cup, it's brutal, because I have, just to put it mildly, 90, 94, and 98, I was the only play-by-play announcer for Univision and called every single game of those 3 World Cups. Now I have games. Yeah, that was crazy. So, once I know my schedule, I know it's going to be brutal regardless. So I prepare usually the next day's match the day before, because, when I get back to my hotel room after a very long day, because my day, just so people understand, doesn't comprise of just me showing up, 5 minutes before the whistle and calling 90 minutes and then go home.
Yeah.
If I'll give you an idea. For the 10 o'clock games in Qatar, we got to the stadiums at 4 o'clock and then leave until 1 a.m. So the first thing I wanted to do when I get to the hotel is like pass out and just disconnect. So I had to have the next day's game already prepared. Obviously, I updated with the press conference of that day and any last minute note, but my notes are prepared well in advance. I foresee the same thing happening next summer. Prepare as much as I can, try to rest as much as I can, which is in a World Cup, it's almost impossible. Try to get a good night's sleep, which is also very impossible because you're full of adrenaline and you're surrounded by the World Cup atmosphere, whether you want it or not. And basically, they tell me rest your voice, and I cannot rest my voice during the World Cup because I get to the hotel, we go down, get something to eat or a drink just to try to bring the adrenaline and the excitement down, and all you're doing is talking about, oh, VAR shouldn't have intervened. I didn't like the way they played, and then you replay the game that you just called with your fellow crew members, and it's very, very demanding. The World Cup, as much as it is on the players, on everyone, and I'm not going to just single out, play-by-play announcers for everyone that covers the World Cup. It's a marathon.
And it's going to be so different coming from Qatar, where you sleep in the same bed for a month, to the world's largest World Cup, where you're going to be flying all over the place.
In Russia, they had promised that they would put connecting flights between the host cities that didn't have direct flights. They never did. I slept in the VIP lounge in the same purple futon, and in one given instance, I had 1 hour to sleep horizontally in a city that I was calling a game. I passed out, put like 6 different alarm clocks. When I woke up, I had no idea what city I was. I had no idea what game I was about to call until I slowly, like by the sixth alarm, I realized, yeah, I'm in Samara, about to call Colombia against Sweden, I think it was. So hopefully that won't happen this time, but there's a chance that I might have to be in LA for the U.S. national team one day and in New York the next, and then in Seattle perhaps 2 days after that. So, I mean, the World Cup comes every 4 years, so I'm up for it, looking forward to it, and hopefully it will be lots of fun.
Yeah, just wait until 2030 when it's 6 countries, 3 continents, potentially 64 teams. Good luck with
Yeah.
that. But I'd love your thoughts. Like, obviously, it's the 100th anniversary. The World Cup is expanding this summer from 32 to 48, and there's been talks potentially of taking it even further to 64. Is that a good thing? Can you physically and mentally handle covering all of those matches and going, like I said, maybe from Spain to Uruguay to Morocco and just all over the place? Like, is this a
Right.
good thing for soccer, with the expansion here potentially?
Yeah, this is not about me, so whatever they end up deciding it will be, I will give you just my opinion. And I don't like, I mean, I think 48 is stretching it, but maybe it will surprise me. But I mean, I've seen some of the under 20 World Cup games, and you see the expanded format of the Champions League, and it's the same thing. It's a 9-1 game, entertaining. US beating New Caledonia. No, it's Real Madrid playing away and just having a day in the park, beating the team 5-1. No. So is it democratic? Is everyone happy? Yeah, I'm sure they are. All these nations that never have a chance to compete in the World Cup. But I thought, the World Cup was for the crop of the crop and the best teams in the world, and it was very hard to qualify. So let's take South Americans example. There are 10 teams in CONMEBOL. So if you already have 6.5 slots, really what you're playing the World Cup qualifying for is to see who doesn't make it, not to see who makes it. So I hope they cap it at 48 teams and they don't go to 64 in 2030.
You've obviously called a lot of iconic moments in U.S. soccer history. Landon Donovan's goal against Algeria, Carly Lloyd's hat trick in the Women's World Cup final. But you've worked with Nico a few times, which I'm sure has just been, absolutely amazing for you. You both were in the booth for the CONCACAF Nations League semifinal between Canada and Mexico. First father-son duo to share a TV booth in the history of a major U.S. English language sports broadcast. So what does it mean to you to not only help him get to the point where he has in his career, but also be able to share some of these, moments with him as father and son?
It was first and foremost, a super nice experience to be able to be with him, especially, now that he has so many years under his belt and is doing so well at Golazo and CBS Sports, to be able to share the booth with him for that game in English was very touching, moving. I tried to detach myself from, the fact that it was what you just said, the first father-son duo in a sporting event in a TV booth, just to try to detach emotionally that, I was next to my son. And I told him when we finished the production meeting, and I think I told everyone that I was his guest and CBS's guest there. So obviously the natural thing. I mean, Kate was super generous in her, throw to the booth, the legendary this and Nico Cantor. And, I said to Nico, hey, this is your house. You take over and I'll follow you. I think it was relieving in the sense that I knew exactly, he knew how to read me without me trying to explain or over explain myself on a given situation in the game. Because he knows the way I think, he knows the way I interpret the game, and I knew exactly, as well. I felt a lot of comfort in the give and go because I knew, where he was coming from, and I think we had lots of fun.
I mean, it must be amazing. I remember you guys also together in Qatar, and I think Nico was covering the Morocco game, and he almost had this moment that was probably reminding me of you when you were younger. He became such an important figure in their victory and in their performance throughout the tournament. There's so much to ask you, of course, but I think maybe to wrap it up, one more for me is like, you dedicated your career and your life to this sport, and you're really such an important figure in our, generation listening to this game. I think for me, mostly perhaps in Spanish, but now a lot of people listen to you in English. What is your role in today's landscape? And as we look ahead, like, how do you want to use this platform to make sure that, in this country, people understand and sort of imitate the joy and passion you have for the sport?
Mm-hmm. Well, I am fortunate enough to be the owner of the Spanish language radio right holders in the US. We are the longest FIFA media partner in the US, regardless of language and medium. So, on top of everything that you said, Asli, I have a business that I'm running. This will be our 7th consecutive World Cup, and I'm looking forward to having the best ever, expanding into the new platforms. This next World Cup will be huge. I said I think it's going to be the most important sporting event in the history of our country, and I know the responsibility that I have because I know there are going to be lots of eyeballs on our broadcast at Telemundo and on myself. Hopefully Argentina can get to the final again and I can go viral and cry 4 years later when they win the World Cup.
Argentina campeón del mundo! Argentina campeón del mundo!
I always say to everyone that asks that if you love the game or you love your job, you have to give it 100%.
I love it. I love it. We could sit here and talk soccer all day, every day, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask. And I know a million people have already asked you, so we're going to make it 1,000,001, and I'll take the blame for it. Is there any way we can get even just an abbreviated of the iconic goal call celebration here?
Right now?
Yeah.
I'm Asli knows the answer.
That's why I said
But you know what? And this is true. I had a recording today. I just finished actually recording. I was talking for 3 hours. I'm working on a project where they needed my voice in different speeds, intonations. I was in a booth for 3 hours, and I don't even know if I'm going to have enough energy to do my radio show in a few minutes.
Maybe Asla, if you're up for it, you can give a go, I can give a go, and Andres can kind of vote on who has a better goal call between the two of us.
Oh my God, you put me on the spot. I don't think I can ever get close to this, but
of course you can.
Okay. Woo-hoo. And I really didn't know this was coming, Michael. You're going to pay for this.
Okay, Asli, hold on. Just close your eyes and think either Osimhen or Icardi is scoring the goal today in the Champions League for Galatasaray's win in Istanbul. Go. Okay, Michael, pretend it's the 38th week of the Premier League and Benjamin Sesko is about to score for Manchester United to salvage the season and stay in the first division.
Yeah. This is United not getting relegated, right?
Exactly.
I am still in an office, so goal!
I think I clearly won this one, but I don't know.
Asli, you killed it.
It was so fresh in my memory. You gave me such a good prompt. Thank you so much. It was such a moment today too. Like, I really live it in my heart, and thank you for that. Like, I guess it's just like, made me so happy and made me so happy to share this moment with you. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you, listen to your experiences and your amazing memories in football. Have a great show, and we can wait to have you again on our show.
Anytime. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Finance of Football comes to you from the Frequency Machine Podcast Network. Hit us up on social on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube
for more football business and our enlightened opinions.
This episode was produced by co-hosts Asa Pellet and Michael Larray. It was edited by Ryan Hammond. Mixing and mastering by Julian Kwasniewski. Our theme music is by Hatamet Tsunami. Our show is executive produced by Stacy Book and Avi Glajansky for Frequency Machine. Find more about Finance of Football at frequencymachine.com. Follow us on YouTube at Finance of Football and listen anywhere you get podcasts. Please like and subscribe. Help us reach more people. We love you for it.